Greetings and welcome to another.
That sounds like shit.
Do I not sound like Mr. Freeze?
No, you sound like Darth Vader. It's like, I don't know, having a cold or something. If this was someone's first episode, they would have thought the audio quality is terrible.
Well, I'm your host, Alex Robson. With me, as always, is my co-host, my brother, comic book artist and writer, and the guy who's known as Mr. Febreze to most of his toilets. It's Will Robson. Hello, Will.
I don't use Febreze. I actually use a very expensive perfume spray.
Why don't you like Mr. Febreze?
I don't like the smell of Febreze. I think it's gross.
No, that's for fucking losers.
I like Ken Mr. Freeze. Just Mr. Freeze calling everyone a nerd, like,
Nerd!
Weren't you a scientist, Mr. Freeze?
That's my old life. Now I'm really cool.
Oh my god! He's kind of a Marvel villain, Mr. Freeze, right? Because he's the classic tragedy, like, I'm a good guy. Oh no, an accident in a lab. I now have strange superpowers.
Yes.
I'm only doing this actually to save somebody. I'm not really a bad person. That's like Spider-Man villain 101.
Yeah, you're right. It's such a Spider-Man villain backstory. You're absolutely right. I've never even thought about that. More fun facts. Allegedly, one of Bruce Timm's first choices to play Mr. Freeze was Anthony Hopkins.
Oh, that would have been dope.
Along with a new backstory by Paul Dini, Mr. Freeze's redesign was created by Mike Mignola, creator of Hellboy.
Well, that makes a lot of fucking sense.
Right?
My God. Goggles, slim head. You know, he's a master of silhouette. And
yes.
What a silhouette does Mr. Freeze have? That's the best fun fact I've ever heard on this fucking show. That's awesome.
I knew you'd love it. When I saw that, I was like, oh, I can't wait to tell him.
I love it.
Batman uttering, "My God," after watching the tape of Mr. Freeze's transformation is unusual for a cartoon, as the censors generally considered any mention of religion or any expletive impossible. Bruce Timm mentioned...
Yeah, but God, you know, that covers all grounds, basically.
Yeah, but they would always, in this show, later on, we'll see things where they go, like, Alfred would go, "My heavens," instead of, "Oh my God," because
but that implies that there's a heaven, which is the same shit.
I guess it's just using the word God, I guess, is just a no-no for some reason.
Jesus H. fucking Christ. Holy Muhammad, Batman.
Got any others?
Mother of Zeus.
So this was an Emmy Award winner for Outstanding Children's Programming in 1993. Batman and Robin obviously took the Mr. Freeze storyline for the movie and the depiction of the character. Bruce Timm and Paul Dini both admitted that if they had a chance to change anything in this episode, they'd make Freeze's tears freeze on his face whilst he was crying at the end of the episode, which, of course, was then later used in Batman and Robin for Arnold Schwarzenegger. His tears froze on his face. And finally, there are 2 Star Wars references in this episode. Do you know what those Star Wars references were?
Yes, I do. Hanging upside down, like Luke in Empire, and also like Luke in Empire, the cryogenic freezing chamber, whatever it's called.
The back to tank.
Back to tank. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Wampa cave is when he's hanging upside down. Yeah, and of course, Mark Hamill was the Joker at this point. They had already had him re-record over some of Tim Curry's dialogue.
Hey, Batman! You stink so bad, I can smell you from here!
They needed this character, and he was the perfect choice. Apparently, I don't know if this is true, but allegedly he based this character off of Phil Hartman, Mark Hamill. And there's a bit of Phil Hartman in there, I can
Who's
see.
Phil Hartman?
Phil Hartman is the neighbor in Jingle All the Way. That's where you would know him from. But he's also the voice of so many Simpsons characters. And I could see him...
It's nestled safely under a tree.
Yeah. And he's just like, this is my experiment. Like,
oh, these cookies!
oh, this freezing technology!
And he played next to Mr. Freeze himself, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes, he did. You're right. There's another connection. That's cool. So...
That is my wife in my lab.
In my cryogenic chamber. So what did you... I mean, you've already kind of mentioned, but what did you think of this episode? What was your opinion?
Look, the fact that they added all of that backstory to Mr. Freeze via the show is astounding because he is a fantastic character. And there's a brutality to it of him. Like, when he froze that guy's legs, if Batman didn't save him, that guy was going to, like, lose his legs, right?
Yeah.
Like, he'd get, whatever it's called.
I love how cold-hearted Freeze is, no pun intended with that, where he's just like, you either come with me, or if you stay him, you'll suffer the same fate. Like, he doesn't care.
Yeah, and they're like, don't you care about it? It's like, no, he fucked up.
Yeah.
I was like, respect, Mr. Freeze, respect.
Yeah. I'd hate to be a thug, though, for Mr. Freeze. Like, imagine, like, you have to wear all these layers. You're freezing cold
I like
all the
the
time.
cold, baby.
Do
I like
you?
the cold. I'll always have the perfectly, like, temperatured martini,
But do you think he'd let you drink? He's not going to be like,
why don't you take a quick 5 and have a scotch?
I'll be like, don't hire me, baby, because when the 5 o'clock comes around, his mouth opens only for booze.
Where is Will Robson? This giant freeze ray has not been built yet, and his components are missing.
I'll be there in just a second, please.
Why did I hire you?
Because before 5 p.m. I am the best.
We start at 5.
Oh dear.
it's interesting that we don't get a still image for a title card on this episode. It's just the snow animated, and then we pull back and we're actually inside the snow globe. There's no like still title card, which is really interesting. And I thought, oh, that must be a Bruce Timm thing because he's directing this. And then there's another episode we'll get to, The Laughing Fish, which is Bruce Timm directed as well. And there's no title card for that either. So maybe he was just like, I don't want to use title cards. I'm going to do my own thing. I thought the Batmobile chase sequence at the beginning was pretty good. Like, that Batmobile looked really good.
It did. Yep.
It hasn't really stood out to me in the show up until now, where I'm just like, damn, that Batmobile looks great. Like, when it's in the rearview mirror.
And he's you were a Batboat man.
Yes, and because the Batboat had way cooler of a scene than any of the Batmobile scenes we've seen so far, until I watched this episode and I was like, oh,
you didn't like Penguin and his goons thumping the top of the Batmobile and
no, I can't.
Children being like, "What is this mobile?"
I can't say that reached my top 10. I did laugh though when the hatch on Freeze's van opens and his hand comes out like a telescope, and he's holding his gun, and then he like a robot, he just turns it and fires, and I'm like, why don't you just stick your hand out, mate? Like, why are you doing this like weird like robot
for the theatrics? I may be dead inside, but I am still a thespian at heart, as was Nora. Oh.
Now I'm sad again.
Does mine work?
Hello. Yes, it does.
It's foolproof Freeze.
What's playing on the West End? I really like Book of Mormon. I thought its commentary on religion was quite humorous.
Do you think that Batman having a cold was weird to see in this episode? Because
it makes him human, but
it does make him human, and I like to be reminded about that, and I think it's good to remember that. But I've always seen him as such a resilient, like unbreakable character, and when he blows his snotty nose into a tissue, I was like, oh, Batman, go to bed, mate.
That's the point. He's just a human man.
I know. But I thought you would be so pissed if, like, you're meeting Bruce Wayne and he comes into your office and he, like, shakes your hand and he's got the worst cold ever.
I'd be like, get the fuck out.
Like, have you heard of a pandemic? Like, this is how this shit started. It started with bats.
Why do you think I wear this over my face? I'm sick of getting all of your colds.
You would be Mr. Freeze. You'd love the Mr. Freeze suit. You'd wear that everywhere.
Oh, it'd be great. It would keep me cool. It would. So I don't have to sweat anymore because I fucking hate sweating. And I wouldn't catch any fucking diseases because I've got a nice like big coverage over my head.
I mean,
it's probably got a built-in toilet, so I can just piss and poo.
I don't have to move anymore.
That was always the goal.
What did you think of Bruce's disguise as a security guard? Because I thought it was the lamest disguise yet. It's just Bruce Wayne with blonde hair and eyebrows. I'm like, dude, you're not fooling anyone. You look just like Bruce Wayne.
Well, fuck you, Superman. He puts glasses on his Clark Kent. I actually dyed my hair a different color. It's a full dye job. I'm fully committed. Like, this is going to be me for the next 30 days.
Yeah. Just seeing Batman with like dyed blonde eyebrows underneath. It's amazing.
Like, you change actors again? Or?
When Batman's watching the security footage of Freeze's accidental creation, there are so many different shots and angles. And at first I thought, like, okay, maybe we transitioned into that scene as an audience, right? And we're watching it. But then I realized, like, no, it's still in black and white. So this is the footage that we're watching.
So, the security guy's probably just like, yeah, I moonlight as an editor. And I just thought, I could have showed you one shot, but it wouldn't have been, spicy enough. I figured there's a 6 camera setup in there. I don't know if you know this. The lab has got it set up. So, I did a wide shot when it came in, a close up for dramatic effect when Nora bit it. You know what I'm saying?
Batman's like, the production value of this security footage is excellent. Do you imagine Batman becomes like a security film footage critic, like after this, where he's just like, this isn't as good as the Mr. Freeze one.
Camera setup, boring. Half of it off camera. Oh my god. 4:3 aspect ratio. Oh.
So am I the only one who thinks that Ferris Boyle is not in the wrong at all in this episode? Like, he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
But he's not a bad guy. To me, he's a dick. Yeah, sure, he's not a nice person. But when watching the videotape of Freeze's origin, he says, this has lost me a couple mil on this operation. I ordered it to be shut down weeks ago. As a businessman, he's done nothing wrong. He's lost money, he's ordered it to be shut down, and someone's disobeyed him and using company property. He even says, like, I have every legal right to do what I want here. And he's right. Like, yeah. I'm like, you're not a bad guy. You're literally doing something. And then Freeze, he pulls a fucking gun out of a holster and points it at him.
He's a desperate man.
And then Boyle kicks him and causes the whole chemical explosion. But you could say that was self-defense because Freeze had a gun trained on him.
Yeah.
So the whole thing at the end where it's like, Batman's like, I have this security footage and this will, incriminate Ferris Boyle. I was like, no, it won't. It's just going to show how, like, actually he did nothing wrong. He shut the business down and told a guy, don't shoot me, and then had to defend himself.
No, I agree. Is this in my head, or did this happen in the comics or something like that? But I remember something about how we've all been told that, and poor Nora, his wife, froze and all this stuff. But there was, like, hints that, well, actually, they were, like, either not ever together and he was like obsessed with her.
Yes. Yeah, so that's one of the versions, is that he was never actually with her and he was obsessed with her and basically put her in cryo sleep because she was ill and like she didn't even know who he was.
I love that.
I love that too. Yeah, I do. I love that.
But then again, it takes away...
I'm an incel.
I'm quite problematic.
Not very cool.
I need to chill out.
Why are they funny?
It does take away from, like, I love the idea of you lose your partner in life, so you just fucking go so cold.
Yeah.
That's why I've always loved the character the Punisher. Like, you kill my whole family, like, I'm gonna fucking murder you. And I love that about that character. But I like the emotionalness of Mr. Freeze, where he's like, you took away my fucking wife, I am dead. Like, Michael Scott, I am dead inside. Like, it's just like, I love that.
I'm okay. No, I'm not.
Just him feeding like penguins, like in like a frozen like place.
Why are you the way that you are?
I love Mr. Freeze doing Michael Scott quotes.
I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
So, what I had forgotten about this episode is that Mr. Freeze thinks that Nora supposedly died in that explosion, because she's gone, right? In this episode, we never see her. And I was like, I thought that this story came up with her being frozen and, like, he's trying to find a cure. And then I remembered that actually it's not until another 70 episodes from now that we see Mr. Freeze again, and he discovers that his wife is still alive and in the tank. And that's where the Batman and Robin stole that piece from it because it came out like very close to when they were writing the script. So, yeah, I think that this episode, the thing is, as you said, it's like the Punisher and it gives him motivation, but it very much is the term fridging. Do you know the term fridging?
Fridging, huh?
Yeah. But so for those that don't know, the origin of the term came from a 1994 comic, Green Lantern, issue number 54. The hero.
Oh, yes, I know what you're talking about.
Kyle Rayner returns home to find his girlfriend, Alexandra DeWitt, killed and stuffed into a refrigerator, which is really messed up for a comic.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
And this trope became recognizable as a way for authors to use female characters as devices to project their male characters forward in their story, which is exactly what this does. Granted, this term was coined after this episode, coined by comic book writer Gail Simone.
And Gail Simone, she's a legend.
Yeah, she's a legend. I get the motivation and I don't mind it. It is fridging, but I don't mind it. But what I don't understand about this episode, my biggest problem with this episode, is Freeze is building this giant freeze ray. Yeah, he's stealing all these components from Gothcorp because he hates Ferris Boyle and blah, 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 blah. And then at the end, he's just like, okay, I'm going to freeze Ferris Boyle in this building with this giant freeze ray. Batman destroys the freeze ray, and then Mr. Freeze still gets up to the floor that Ferris Boyle is on and still freezes him in place. So I'm like, why wasn't that your plan all along? Why did you have to build this giant f***ing gun when it broke and you're like, oh yeah, I've got one in my hand. Here I go. And he does like this Iceman thing when he kicks the fire hydrant, like flies up.
Great.
It's a cool scene. Yeah, I love that.
It's quite like really out of place for him. He's like,
I like to have fun from time to time.
Are we?
I saw this in Mary Poppins, one of my favorite musicals, as we have established that I am a thespian.
But do you know what I'm saying, though? He like went through all this trouble to build this freeze gun, and he never ended up using it, really.
And he tries to build a giant freeze gun in the Schwarzenegger movie.
Batman and Robin, yeah, he does. But at least his idea was, I'm going to freeze the whole city.
Let's kick some ice.
There's a lot of great-looking Batman in this episode.
There is a lot of great-looking Batman. We even got a Tim Burton Batman moment where he punches the guy backwards, he doesn't even look at him. I thought that was cool. I laughed when Batman karate chopped Freeze's neck a bunch of times because Freeze grabs him and Batman's just like judo chop, judo chop, judo chop, and it does nothing, and he's just like, what do I do now? I'm f***ed. So what do you think of the ending of this episode?
I don't think anything of it. Why?
Well, do you think it's a bit weak that Freeze was taken out by some f***ing chicken soup, or is it ironic?
It's clever. That explains why Batman has a cold and all that, etc.
Do you think Alfred was mad that Batman wasted his good chicken soup? I can see Batman coming back from the fight, and Alfred's like, "So, how was the chicken soup?" And Batman just lies.
Cracking, Alfred.
What did you like most about it?
It was piping hot.
Yes, but I spent a lot of time, Master Bruce. I layered in a lot of
I got a cold, I can't taste stuff right now. Everything just tastes bland to me. He's so annoying when he has a cold. Oh my god. Alfred! Ding, 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 ding. Alfred, I'm too cold. All right, here you go, sir. Extra blanket. I'm too warm now, Alfred. I wanted tomato soup, not chicken, Alfred. Oh, for God's sake. Alfred. Just comes on the bat computer. Alfred! Can you put Vicks Rape and Rub on my back, Alfred?
So, what makes no sense about the thermos, though, the chicken soup thermos, is Batman takes it out from his belt, right? We see him take it out. And I was thinking at first, that's a big thing to have on your utility belt.
Seeing Batman oh, look at that utility belt full of all those different gadgets. And is that a red thermos? It's a bug standard, a plastic thermos. What is that, soup? Is there soup in this?
Is there a piece of tape that says Bruce Wayne on it? Master Bruce's hot chicken soup. But the thing is that I was like, okay, I'll buy it. It's strapped to the back of his back, underneath his cape. But then at one point, Mr. Freeze takes Batman's utility belt and literally carries it away with him, and Batman has to retrieve it. There is no thermos on that utility belt. So it just reappears, and I'm like,
That's the magic of cartoons, bud. Don't worry.
I know, but I was like, that is some convenient storytelling. So the episode ends with Summer Gleason being given the security footage of the sabotage experiment that incriminates Boyle, and then we cut to Arkham Asylum where Freeze talks to his snow globe whilst Batman watches from a rooftop. And I always feel a little emotional when Freeze says and delivers the line, "I can only beg for your forgiveness and pray you hear me somehow, someplace where a warm hand waits for mine." And that last line always gets me, bud. It really does. I don't know. It makes the hairs on my arm stand up. Like,
oh, wow.
Just the way he delivers it is really good. But just some place where a warm hand waits for mine. Like, I do love when Freeze is even talking to Batman when he's hanging upside down. He's like, I would give anything to feel the warmth of like air on my face on a hot summer's day, and like the loving embrace. Like,
yeah, I like the hot face summer day thing. I get that, but I think the ending it's a little bit wanky, that final line. But if it tickles you in that sweet spot, then that's great. It did its job.
Yeah, I think it's right for the character that they created, and I think it's a good ending. I like that ending.
Yeah. I am a thespian of that as well.
That's you don't understand what the word thespian means.
No, you loser. Who says that word anymore?
You use it in the wrong context. I am a thespian fan of that as well. I don't know. I think he might be a thespian.
I'm too cool for that.
Yeah. Tell me, what is the definition of thespian? Go on.
A thespian is someone that's, aren't they like, it's something to do with the arts and like, how can I describe this? Like
specific art.
Yeah, they're a fan of a specific art, like an old art. Like, is it like Shakespeare and like stage plays and stuff?
Yes, it's anything to do with like Broadway stage plays, like all musicals, all of that stuff. You just love like people on stage putting on a show and singing songs. So you did know it.
Yeah, so shove that in your fucking tube and smoke it. I was trying to make a connection and it didn't work.
I fucked up.
Well, on that note, that's all the time we've got for this week. Join us next time where we'll continue talking all things Batman, the animated series. Until then, I've been Alex Robson.
I've been Will Robson.
And remember that we are Vengeance, we are the Night, we are a podcast.
Goodbye.
Nerds.